Welcome to Daily Saints with Grace. Fast, faithful stories told with clarity and heart. On November 22nd, the Church remembered Saint Cecilia, a young Roman who had chosen a quiet vow over a loud world and paid for it with her life. People later called her the patron of music, not because she performed on stage, but because her name kept echoing when documents fell silent. Tonight, we told her story the way it most likely lived, half history, half memory, a melody carried by the faithful when the archives went dark. Rome had roared around her, banquets, marble, the clink of coins, but Cecilia had moved through it with a vow hidden like a flame cupped in two hands. Tradition said a marriage had been arranged. She had kept her promise to Christ, and the man named Valerian had listened long enough to be changed by it. Rumors suggested Valerian's brother Tiburtius followed the same path, and the city's mood turned. Their faith stopped being private. It began to look like defiance. Nothing about Cecilia felt theatrical. She had simply believed that love could be single-minded. In Rome, that was a revolution. Authorities had not liked the conversions, the refusals, the way courage spread without permission. Tradition reported that officials tried the bath first. A sealed room, rising heat, a plan to end a life quietly. She emerged alive. Reports then said the blade had been used. The first blows failed to finish what they started. She lingered for 3 days, and those days became the part people could not forget. A young woman wounded, still giving instructions, still giving away what she had, still speaking the name she loved. No speeches survived from those hours, only the impression that mercy had outlasted force. They laid her in the Catacombs of St. Callixtus, near the crypt where popes slept in stone. For centuries, the faithful had walked those tunnels, lighting small flames against the dark and whispering names so they would not be lost. Cecilia's name stayed lit. Rome changed governments, languages, fashions. Pilgrims kept coming. And when the time was safer, the church raised a house for her above ground, the basilica in Trastevere, because some stories needed a door you could still walk through. In 1599, workers opened the tomb during restoration. Witnesses said her body was whole, skin like paper, pose at rest, until air touched it and time caught up. An artist named Stefano Maderno saw her and carved what he had seen before the moment vanished. He did not sculpt triumph. He sculpted tenderness. The face turned away, the hands arranged in a sign people later read as a quiet catechism. One God, three persons, and at the neck, the wound that ended the hymn. If you stood in that church, you did not see a legend shouting. You saw silence that refused to be erased. Was Cecilia a musician? The earliest records did not say so plainly. It said that a medieval antiphon had praised her for keeping the song of the heart while instruments played around her. Over time, listeners heard music every time her name was read. Organ builders, choirs, composers, all adopted her as a patron because her story felt like the pure note you hoped to hit and hold. The evidence may have been thin. The instinct was not. When words failed, melody often carried faith farther. Empires tended to lose their libraries, to water, to flame, to neglect. But the church had kept a different archive, liturgy. Names were woven into prayer, week after week, century after century, until forgetting became hard work. Cecilia's name lived in the Roman Canon, side by side with Agatha, Lucy, Agnes, and other young women whose courage had outlasted headlines. If you wanted proof she mattered, you didn't need a complete biography. You need a Massachusetts. And there she was. Those final hours had not been about spectacle. They had been about handing things on. Possessions to the poor, words to the frightened, trust to the God she believed would not waste suffering. Reports claimed she had asked that her house become a church. In Trastevere, a door had opened that still answered that request. The city around her had chased applause. She had chosen allegiance, and that choice had written itself in stone. You did not need to read Latin to understand what the basilica meant. You only needed to stand inside and be quiet. Cecilia had not played to a crowd. She had tuned a life. If her story sounded simple, that was part of the lesson. A hidden vow, a public cost, and a name that stayed because the faithful kept saying it. If this remembrance steadied you, comment, "Let my heart sing," and name one quiet promise you wanted to keep this week. Like so others find it. Subscribe for daily saints told with clarity and heart, and share this with a musician or a friend who needed courage to hold their note. And when November 22nd returns next year, you would recognize the day, not because a server saved it, but because a prayer had. Saint Cecilia, pray for us.